Hello and welcome. It's very nice to have everyone here. Tonight we're here to celebrate 40 years of TAMA's illustrious history. And thank you. You are all a part of it and have been a part of it. And over the course of these 40 years, we've seen a lot of things happen. And tonight we're going to take you on a little journey back in time. And we want to try to go back to 1974. And we're going to come forward. And we're going to try to jog your memory along the way about maybe what was happening in the world at the time, and what was happening in music, and what was happening with TAMA. Because over those 40 years, there's a lot to remember, and even we forgot some of these things.
The mid-70s, 40 years ago, and things were quite different than they are now. It was a world coping with news headlines like Watergate, the 1974 oil crisis, and the kidnapping of a young newspaper heiress by the name of Patty Hearst. Steve Jobs had just started Apple, and a midsummer energy failure plunged New York City into complete darkness for more than 24 hours. Music was the lifeblood of a generation full of desire to express itself. And the scope of what you could experience in music seemed limitless. From Alice Cooper to Alice Coltrane, from B.B. King to King Crimson, the public's interest in music was growing every year. Mega-scale tours crisscrossed the globe, and an entire industry was born. And as this industry grew, so did the need for professional drum equipment that could perform and survive on the road. It was this paradigm shift that helped give birth to TAMA drums. Until TAMA entered the picture in 1974, drum hardware hadn't changed in decades. It was, in fact, obsolete long before rock and roll became big business. Now, in a world where heavy-duty touring was the norm, there was an unquestionable need for drums that could sound great in the studio, as well as on stage against walls of amplification, and hardware that was both sturdy and highly functional, far beyond what was available at the time. TAMA was not only a drum company that listened to what drummers needed, it made what they needed. It tackled the challenge with an eye towards innovation and attention to detail that startled the drumming world, and in doing so not only created the legendary Superstar drumline, it also succeeded in setting a new industry standard in drum hardware with its breakthrough Titan hardware, a standard that to this day remains the archetype for every brand that has followed since. Today, many drummers don't even realize it was TAMA's Titan hardware that ushered in the age of heavy-duty double-braced hardware, the telescoping boom arm, nylon bushing gripping power, and the cymbal mate. But even more importantly, TAMA gave drummers the kind of strength, durability, and flexibility in their hardware they had only dreamed about until then, something that enabled every drummer to perform to their fullest capacity without fear of equipment failure. And it didn't end there. Inspired by instruments of far-flung cultures around the world, TAMA gave drummers new forms of percussion and a new lease on creativity with the gong bass drum and multi-pitched octobans. With all of this exciting new invention going on, it was no wonder that TAMA rapidly caught the attention of drummers around the world. Drummers like Lenny White of Return to Forever and Billy Cobham, who had achieved worldwide notoriety with the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
everybody. My name is Stewart Copeland. Last time I was here was a long time ago, and TAMA was giving out plaques for Kenny Aronoff, been playing TAMA drums for 7 years. Wow. Lenny White, been playing TAMA drums for 9 years. Billy Cobham, Lars, for 12 years. Stewart Copeland playing TAMA drums for 39 years. So I don't need to say one good thing about the drums. I don't need to say, oh, they rock. I don't need to say the fine, nothing. 39 years, okay? I think that kind of speaks for itself. And how did this all begin? It began in 1975, which is 1 year after 40 years ago. And I was a journalist in London, writing for a rock magazine called Sounds Magazine. I was the technical journalist. I got to review the new gear. And in comes this Japanese drum set. And let me explain what drums were like in 1973. The stands were these tiny, spindly little stands, like that big. I mean, just these little whiffy things. Adequate for jazz, I expect. But, I mean, the good news was that you could put, your snare drum was a box like that. Snare drum here, stool seat there, and the cymbal stands, couple cymbals, a hi-hat, in one box, this big, nylon thing. And so when you see these big stands, which I was reviewing, I couldn't believe these drums. I mean, the size, the power. 39 years. They were just incredible, these drums, but the size of them. I mean, how the hell am I going to carry this shit around, all right? But this was all made possible by an innovation in rock and roll engineering, a step forward in the technology of touring, known as roadies. And I say this with great respect because I myself am a glorified roadie. I started out in show business roadieing for Wishbone Ash. To this day, I am proud of the way I can coil a wire. I know I can put 20 Marshall cabinets into that Ford Transit truck. I know how to get Marshall cabinets into the truck, okay? Fucking guitarist has no idea. Because he's at the bar while the drummers are pulling their stuff down. You know what I'm talking about. We're all together here, right? Okay? Any guitarists in the room? Oh, shit. Yeah, there are a couple. What do you throw a drowning guitarist? His amp. You've all heard that one. Okay. So anyway, I figured I got to get me some of these drums. And I was playing in a band called Curved Air at the time, which had hits years previously. They had this great singer, Sonia Christina. They had, and I wanted to get me some of those drums. So I collected all of Curved Air's press that they had for the 10 years previously. Sonia Christina was kind of a hot item in the news and everything. And I sent that to the guy from who was importing these brand new Japanese drums into England to convince him that he should give me some for free. And I sent him all these articles. And the good thing was that with Xerox in those days, you could kind of leave out the date. And with the reviews, the good news was that they never mentioned who the drummer was. And I didn't tell the guy that I joined the band 20 minutes ago. And so I do my whole thing, bamboozling them. And wish I could remember the guy's name, the TAMA representative in London at that time. But he looks me up and down. He checks my vibe. He has an eye, he can read my tea leaves. He looks at me and says, young man, I really fancy Sonia Christina. You get a set of drums. So 39 years later, here we are, and I'm still playing TAMA drums. They just invented a new one, they just told me. I think they got them dotted around the room here, and I'm going to get me one of them too, because my current wife is even hotter. And I think the band's ready to play. Thank you for coming down. I love you all, even the guitarists.
By the early 80s, the world was changing dramatically. It was a new era of Reaganomics, the space shuttle, Japanese automobiles, and the breakup of Ma Bell. Tech advancements such as the fax machine, VCRs, video games, and the audio CD helped propel society further and further from any resemblance of the 70s. Nothing signified this exodus from the previous decade more than the music of the 80s. New wave exploded as an aftermath of the late 70s punk movement, calling an end to all things peace and love. And bands with names like Devo, Duran Duran, and The Police invaded our homes through a new cable network called MTV. But this, by no means, was all that was happening in music. Taking its cue from glam-influenced rockers of the previous decade, a new generation of metal bands moved towards mass popularity, and artists like Van Halen, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Metallica ruled. All of this, coupled with numerous other genres, creating a pool of music that had more than doubled in size since the 60s. With the onslaught of these and other ambitious styles, drumming technique was evolving to new heights that required the absolute best in drum equipment. By now, the word on TAMA drums and hardware had spread far and wide, and clear-cut TAMA innovations like its Titan hardware line, the Omni-Ball mounting system, Camco chain drive pedal, and slickly designed multi-clamps were almost required equipment of the times. With a reputation of the strongest name in drums firmly in place, TAMA started the new decade by, once again, shaking up the industry, this time with the release of several new, highly distinctive snare drums, most notably its widely coveted solid bell brass model. Bell brass drums of the time are still in demand today, often commanding prices of $4,000 and up on the open market. As trends leaned towards bigger-sounding drums, TAMA responded in 1981 with its deep-sized extras, which quickly took the drumming world by storm. Always looking for improvement, TAMA added the ease of one-touch locking to its revered Titan hardware line in 1982, and in 1983 took the bold step of reversing the commonly held belief that thicker-shelled drums meant better-sounding drums. With its thin-shelled Cordia Artstar drumline, TAMA irrevocably changed the direction of drum building for the entire industry. By the time the 80s had reached its midpoint, TAMA had unleashed a variety of innovative and wildly successful equipment, including its popular Swing Star beginner drum set, the X-Hat, the Tilt Hat, and Power Tower drum rack system, the most sophisticated rack system the drumming world had ever seen. It was also by this time that one of TAMA's most powerful and prolific representatives, Simon Phillips, had established himself as well, recognized for his extraordinary playing and extensive touring and recording with hundreds of world-class acts. second half of the 80s proved no less volatile than the first, as the world dealt with news of the Challenger space shuttle, Chernobyl, the downing of the Berlin Wall, Tiananmen Square, and the dissolution of the USSR. We learned what our brain looked like on drugs, how to walk like an Egyptian, to not worry and be happy, and to just do it. But even with an increasingly hurried pace of life and often unsettling headlines, music was more vibrant than ever. New wave was beginning to recede, and metal was gaining momentum, courtesy of bands like Metallica, Anthrax, and Slayer. Hard rock, in the form of Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, and others, was now the mainstay of popular music. With this onslaught of metal and hard rock, TAMA's Titan hardware was in use on virtually every major rock or metal tour in the country. By now, numerous Titan imitators were visible in the market. Many looked like the real deal, but wore like a cheap suit, leading wiser drummers to quickly realize there was no substitute for TAMA quality. Ironically, even though the brand got its start with jazz giants such as Lenny White, Billy Cobham, Elvin Jones, and others, it was this widespread regard for TAMA as the only serious choice for metal-minded road warriors that earned TAMA its somewhat misplaced typecasting as the heavy metal drum company, a role that even today some have a hard time shaking, despite TAMA's wide and varied artist roster. TAMA's flagship ArtStar thin-shell drums were now in big demand by drumming's elite, which left the beloved Superstar line looking a little tired. And in 1986, TAMA unveiled several new lines geared towards reinventing the brand. ArtStar 2 was TAMA's first maple shell offering, while Grandstar, Grandstar Custom, and Creststar carried on the Superstar tradition of all birch shells. Capitalizing on its stellar reputation among rock drummers, TAMA shook the drumming world again in 1988, replacing its market-topping Swingstar drums with the more muscular Rockstar line. Rockstar and Rockstar Pro were the ideal counterpart to TAMA's 1986 Stagemaster hardware release, and together they became one of the biggest-selling drum combinations of their time. With more than a decade of history behind its legendary Titan hardware, TAMA decided it was time for yet another functional upgrade. And in 1989, the Stilt tiltable Titan hardware concept was unveiled. Turning its attention to the humble, oft-overlooked hi-hat, TAMA finished out the decade, catching drummers' attention with its ultra-responsive cam-operated lever glide hi-hat. By the end of the 80s, the TAMA roster of artists read like a who's who of famous drummers, holding endorsements from every genre. All of these players were the masters of their style. But when it came to pure, heads-down, no-nonsense metal, no one took better command of the style than Charlie Benante of Anthrax.
I think you guys have already kind of now seen a bunch of our amazing artists, and we have lots more to come still. Some of the best drummers in the world are here tonight, and some of the best drummers in the world could not be here tonight. A couple of them had another obligation, a little thing called the Grammys. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. So what we did was compile some videos from the artists that really wanted to be here with us today, but weren't able to appear in person. And we're gonna play this for you guys now, so enjoy.
Happy birthday, TAMA. Much appreciate the love. This is Adam Deitch. Just got through playing a Lettuce show on these beautiful drums. And just want to say it's been an honor and a pleasure being with you guys for all these years, since my Schofield days. And now I'm wishing you happy birthday, anniversary, either way, from London, playing with Lettuce. And just want to say, love you guys, and thank you for all the support and all the amazing, beautiful drums over the years. Peace.
Hi guys, greetings from the UK, and let me say how sorry right away I am that I cannot be with you this evening in Los Angeles for this massive gala celebration of Tama's 40th birthday. We fell in love on sight, really, Tama and I, back in about 1980 when I was retooling for another excursion with King Crimson. Back in those days, weird things were encouraged. Tama's catalogue was stuffed with things like octobands, gong toms, bell brass snare drums, boom cymbal stands. Even now, the list just makes me drool. It kept me playing them for some 30 years. Tama set a standard for innovation then that has never been surpassed, and which today remains unchallenged in the world of acoustic drums. The relationship between a drum company and the individual artist like me runs a lot deeper than the odd free drum, you know. And I'd like to take this opportunity to not only congratulate, but to thank Bill Rymer and all his team backstage that keep Tama the well-oiled machine it obviously is, and tell them how much I already miss their company, their encouragement, and their support. But hey, enough about me. I'm going to hand you back to Lenny, Simon, Billy, Mike, Kenny, and all the other guys with whom I'm proud to say I've shared the stage on several occasions, drum clinics and festivals, supporting Tama. And I'm sure you're being very well looked after. Once again, a massive happy 40th birthday to Tama. See ya.
Hey everybody, this is Joel Rosenblatt, wanting to wish Tama a very happy 40th anniversary. I wish I was there to celebrate with you and maybe have some dinner. But instead I'm coming to you from my studio in New York, and I just want to show you a couple things. I've been with Tama since 1986. This is my very first ad. I'm probably 26 years old here, playing my Art Star 2 kit, which were great drums. And then if we go back more into the studio, this is my very first Star Classic kit. It means a lot to me. It's the very first kit that Tama supplied to me, and it's actually the kit that I played, I think it was 92 or 93, at the Namm show when Tama introduced this line to the public. So it has a lot of meaning to me, and of course it sounds great. I play it every day. So I'm really happy, grateful, and proud to be associated with this company. Great products, great people, and I just want to wish a happy 40th, and at least 40 more. Have a great show, everybody.
This is John Stanier, and I would like to wish Tama a happy 40th birthday. It's run by the coolest people in the world, and it is my honor to play your drums. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone at TAMA, this is Bill Ward, and I want to congratulate you with all my heart. And 40 years, man, that's the way to go. Congratulations, many congratulations to all of you that worked so hard on creating the best drum. I consider the best drum in hard rock and metal drumming. Thank you.
Welcome to my home. Troy Lucchetti here saying hello, congratulations to a magnificent 40 years, Tama Drums. I gotta tell you, I've spent 27 years with you guys, and you guys have treated me like gold, as you do everybody. Same story from all of us. So I know I'm speaking for everybody when I say this. I'm truly sorry I can't be there. Tesla's playing this weekend. Otherwise, I would be there. Okay, that's the only thing keeping me from not being there. So I know you guys are having a wonderful time, and I want to just share a quick little story about Simon Phillips and TAMA drums. It was 1977. I went into this place called Strings and Things Music, and I remember seeing a set of drums, and they had a brochure there. And I looked at the brochure, and I seen Simon on it, and there was a paradiddle exercise with his feet. And Simon, you probably remember this, but that was my introduction to TAMA drums. And it's interesting, in 1987, when Tesla was kicking off its first tour after our first album with David Lee Roth, I hooked right up with you guys, and I've been there ever since. I couldn't be happier, and I could not be more thankful and grateful. You guys have been truly amazing, so please know from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate you. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful time, okay? God bless.
Hello, Abe Cunningham here, wishing TAMA Drums a happy 40th. Unbelievable, man. 40 years of top-notch, progressive, groundbreaking products in the drumming world. Here's to you. All the best. I wish I could join you all, but I'm on tour, so have a great, great night. Ow! Happy birthday, TAMA.
Hey, TAMA friends. Hey, TAMA fans. Hey, TAMA family. Lars Ulrich here, hitting you from Northern California from our HQ. I wanted to wish TAMA, obviously, happy 40th anniversary. And sorry that I'm missing the celebrations in Los Angeles tonight, but wish I could be there, and I'm sure that you guys are having an ass-kicking night and lots of fun and shenanigans going on. I have basically been playing TAMA like my whole career for about 30 years, and I didn't even know there actually was. Is there another kind of? There are no other kind of drums than TAMA, is there? That's just a myth, right? It starts with TAMA and it ends with TAMA, right? See, there you go. There's the truth. In 1984, I spoke to a gentleman named Neil Peart on the phone, and he was kind enough to talk about how awesome his TAMA experience had been over the years. And he made a phone call or two, hooked me up with Joe Hibbs, and the rest, as they say, is history. So it's been 30 years. It's been 30 incredible years. Obviously, we've made, about 10 or 11 records. We've toured the world thick and thin over the last 30 years. And goddamn, those drums and that hardware and all the rest of it, they put up with a lot of sweat and spit and take a lot of beatings and a lot of other bumps and grinds and so on and so forth. So it's been an amazing ride so far. Thank you for letting me be part of your experience for 30 years. And here's to Lars and TAMA for another 30 years. And here is to TAMA and their 40th anniversary, celebration, birthday, whatever you want to say. Here's to another 140 for all you guys. And I will shut the fuck up now so you guys can get on with your evening. Happy birthday, TAMA. Lots of love. Mwah.
Time, the 80s had lapsed and the 90s arrived, ushering in a decade of more change that began with war in the Middle East. The 90s would go on to be characterized by widespread rioting in Los Angeles, sparked by the Rodney King verdict, the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill hearings, Waco, the first attack on the World Trade Center, and the election of Bill Clinton. Metal music was still in full force as the decade began, but popular music made a sudden, unforeseen sharp turn when a scraggly trio from Seattle by the name of Nirvana led a movement that swept the world by storm, dethroning legions of hair metal bands that reigned supreme in the 80s. It was a clear backlash against the previous decade's metal mania. However, despite its supposed heavy metal mantle, TAMA could be found on stage with a variety of alternative bands, such as the Melvins, Primus, The Offspring, Screaming Trees, Helmet, Ministry, and of course, Nirvana. While the alternative music storm was pounding the U.S., a storm of another kind was building back in Nagoya. Yoshiki Hoshino, or Joe, as many in the industry knew him, recognized that the modern drum pedal was long overdue for a substantial overhaul. Joe knew every drummer had their own specific preferences about how they wanted their pedal to perform. With this as guide, Joe determined his new super pedal would not only have to be faster, stronger, and more responsive, it would also have to be infinitely more adjustable. Dr. Nahiro Yasuda, TAMA's brilliant head of R&D, responsible for so many of TAMA's groundbreaking products over the years, set to work on this with his team of engineers. And so, in 1993, TAMA introduced the first generation of the Iron Cobra. Cobra pedals featured smart new ideas devised by Yasuda's team that helped give the Iron Cobra fast, ultra-smooth action and the extensive adjustability Joe had envisioned. Based on its solid performance and player adaptability, the Iron Cobra quickly became one of the best-selling pedals of all time. Joe's vision didn't end with the Iron Cobra. For years, he had been playing with drum sound, experimenting with different shell construction methods, hardware modifications, even finishing techniques. His goal was to create a new super-thin drum shell, one that boasted the best characteristics of great vintage drums of the past, combining it with new sound-enhancing hardware made possible by modern technology, and ultimately emerge with a drum set that surpassed even Artstar in its sonic range, resonance, and response. The result? 1994's Star Classic drums. Counter to the popular trends of the 90s, one band went against the tide and started a different movement that, even today, continues to influence countless young musicians. No other band embodied the pioneering spirit of modern progressive rock more than Dream Theater, and no one embodied the art of modern progressive drumming more than Mike Portnoy. In the years that led up to the new millennium, the world saw Hong Kong return to Chinese rule, the launch of a modest online auction site, the tragic end of a popular princess, a new king of professional golf, the impeachment of one president, and narrowly won victory of another. After the passing of Kurt Cobain, the tide of alternative music slowly began to turn, but not before bands like Smashing Pumpkins, Rage Against the Machine, Oasis, Pearl Jam, and others would go on to achieve stardom. As alternative waned, it was being nudged aside by a number of different genres: country, hip-hop, R&B, diva soul, rap, and rock, all vied for supremacy of the popular music charts. Within only a few years, TAMA's Star Classic Maple had become a tour de force. With its curvy, organic styling, wide-open sound, and clear projection, Star Classic found a home among an increasingly wider range of artists and musical styles. Even with Star Classic Maple's popularity, there were still those who longed for the sound of Birch, a sound TAMA originated 20 years earlier with Superstar. In 1994, TAMA responded with Star Classic performer Birch, a slightly more rugged, more Spartan Star Classic that, for the first time ever, offered a bass drum-mounted tom holder on a Star Classic set. Rockstar, TAMA's affordable semi-pro drums were already massively popular among drummers when its lacquer-finished counterpart, Rockstar Custom, joined the line in 1997. Rockstar, along with Rockstar Custom, went on to become one of the biggest-selling drum lines of all time. Not only because of TAMA's passion to build and sell smart, high-quality drums and hardware, but also because of the incredible support of music retailers, drum specialty shops, and drum enthusiasts around the globe, TAMA was now one of the most revered and successful drum companies in the world. This came with its own set of baggage, including a bullseye, which a variety of competitors pinned neatly on the company's door. Undaunted by an increasingly more competitive market, TAMA remained focused, constantly searching for ways to improve its offerings. This mindset yielded the first chair line of drum thrones in 1996 and drove further refinement of the Iron Cobra that resulted in 1998's second generation of Iron Cobra pedals and the Iron Cobra hi-hat. The Fast Clamp followed in 1999, a small but meaningful device that gave drummers the advantage of fast, easy multi-clamp positioning. At the decade's end, the company paid tribute to three of its most respected virtuosos with the launch of its signature palette series of snare drums, issuing drums from Simon Phillips, Kenny Aronoff, and Bill Bruford. Lest anyone doubt the range of TAMA's appeal, consider one of just many young drummers from deep within an urban setting, steeped in a culture of gospel, soul, hip-hop, and pop music, ending up in the drummer's seat on stage and in the studio with some of the biggest names in the music business. Names like Lady Gaga, Justin Timberlake, Diddy, and the Backstreet Boys. And consider today, he is a modern musical success story. He is George Spanky McCurdy. well before the horror of 9/11 and its aftermath, Enron, Hurricane Katrina, the Euro, or the iPod. TAMA began the new millennium on a high note, celebrating its long-standing relationship with drumming icons Stewart Copeland, Mike Portnoy, and Lars Ulrich, adding each of their unique snare drums to TAMA's signature palette. Like their predecessors, these were a noble testament to their namesake's legacy. Requests coming in from around the world indicated that many drummers were now seeking something more, something beautiful, something rare, exotic, the drum set of their dreams. Although TAMA had always been acutely aware of the importance of aesthetics, it followed a dogma dictated more by form and function and tended to shy away from blatant opulence. Slightly skeptical of these high-rolling requests, TAMA put aside its normal limitations of pure practicality and dove headfirst into what can only be viewed as fine art. Winter Namm 2001, TAMA showcased its initial foray into this realm with the debut of its first limited edition Exotics Collection set. It was a stunning display of fine woods, superior craftsmanship, and the best hardware, brilliantly engineered for both sound and visual appeal. Despite the relatively hefty price tag it carried, it sold out within a matter of hours. Inspired by its success, the boys back home in Japan took to this concept like a cormorant to a sweetfish, and in the years that followed, produced 6 more Exotics editions, each one more impressive than the last. The Exotics collection culminated with a twist in 2008 with the release of the Warlord Spartan Exotics all-steel shell set. By 2002, it was clear that the cost of manufacturing in Japan was making it impossible for TAMA to build the kind of quality drums and hardware it was accustomed to, and still remain competitive in the market. After lengthy consideration, plans were finalized, and in late 2002, the company began construction of a new factory in Guangzhou, China. TAMA knew it would come under intense scrutiny for making such a move, but was confident in its planning and preparation, and that the quality of its professional drums wouldn't suffer as a result of this change. After construction of the factory finished in 2003, TAMA's most experienced builders went to Guangzhou, where they spent another 2 years hiring and training locals in the art of making TAMA drums. Nothing would go out the door, company chairman Yoshihiro Hoshino declared, unless all TAMA quality standards had been met. The real affirmation of these efforts came when finally, in 2004, the first Star Classic drums came off the production line and shipped into the market. The world could hardly believe they were not made in Japan. Operations started modestly, but in the years ahead, production expanded to include several new lines, among others, TAMA's highly acclaimed 2005 Superstar series. With everything now working as expected in China, TAMA Japan could once again divert its attention towards loftier endeavors, such as Star Classic Bubinga Omnitune. With Star Classic Omnitune, TAMA's engineers took the oft-explored concept of top and bottom head tuning from the player's side and masterfully turned it into a real and elegant solution. Much like Spanky, there was another young drummer also cutting his teeth at the time, playing in rock, punk, fusion, Latin, and funk bands, Matt Garstka. His skill, his vision, and hard work would take him in quite a different direction, where now he serves as the drummer of one of today's most respected young progressive bands, Animals as Leaders. With the added capacity Tama's Guangzhou factory provided, there was ample room in the second half of the decade to consider both the artistic and the functional side of drum design. The success and popularity of the Exotics collection had given Tama the inspiration to pursue other lavishly appointed drums, while still continuing to develop new and innovative percussion equipment. 2006 brought a number of compelling releases, including the ornate Warlord snare drum series, conceived and executed under the guidance of Tama's recently appointed patriarch, Taka Hoshino. An unexpected marriage of knock-your-socks-off bling and awe-inspiring drum building, these drums sounded every bit as over-the-top as they looked. 2006 also saw another artist's snare added to the signature palette, this time from one of rock's most celebrated hotshots, John Tempesta. Not to be outdone in the hardware department, Tama offered up an equally flashy limited edition all-chrome-plated Cobra pedal and the not-so-limited new Stagemaster hardware line. But it wasn't all snares and hardware. 2006 was the year two of the company's most popular drum lines of all time made their debut, Star Classic Bubinga Birch, and perhaps Tama's highest-scoring player ever, the all-in-one, ready-to-rock Imperial Star. The following year, another member was added to the prestigious Signature Palette Club, none other than the Grandmaster Flash of Groove, John Blackwell. 2007 was also the year Superstar was given the option of hyperdrive shell depths, a trend that took the world by storm and today commands a die-hard following here in the U.S. Whether it was a longing for a taste of the 70s or just something completely different, the sophisticated styling and laser-sharp sound of Star Classic Mirage acrylic shell kits caught the attention of U.S. drummers in 2007, giving them yet another voice to be heard with. In 2009, Tama's factory in Seto City, Japan, devoted itself to Star Classic Bubinga Elite. Beginning in 2002, Tama had earned a well-deserved reputation as being the true pioneer of all Bubinga drum shell building. Others had dabbled in it, but because of its rock-hard density, twice that of the hardest variety of maple, and the danger caused by its toxic woodworking dust, other drum companies steered clear. Bubinga shells offered incredible tonal range and projection, but until Tama mastered it, it was something of a forbidden fruit. More expensive? Sure. But considering its stubborn, even deadly temperament, Bubinga Elite deserves the comparison it often receives as being the Ferrari of professional drums. In the years ahead, Tama would continue to knock out a number of impressive hits: Starphonic snare drums, Speed Cobra, Silver Star, SLP snare drums, the Cobra Coil, and Quickset Cymbal Mate. Two more iconic players, Charlie Benante and John Dolmayan, with their own signature drums. But the best was still to come. In 2011, Tama realized the dream of a lifetime and introduced its long-awaited marching percussion line. This was Tama at its best, smart, strong, loaded with innovative features unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. It was incredible. What Tama had accomplished so long ago in the mid-70s, changing the paradigm for drum sets for years to come, it had now done again for marching percussion. Then, just when everyone thought Tama had pulled the last rabbit out of its hat, Star drums made their debut. Unveiled in 2013, these were drums designed with every last possible detail in mind. Made in Japan by Tama's ninja-level craftsmen, they represent nothing less than the pinnacle of audiophile sound, richly textured tone, and pure, clean projection. I could talk forever about how they sound, but hearing is believing.